Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, a billionaire businessman, television celebrity, and the leading Republican candidate in the 2016 race for US president. Donald Trump's popularity has caught many by surprise, so what's behind the Trump phenomenon? So filling in again for digital producer, we have Omar Badal filling in for Malika Bilal. Poor Omar. So little on the online about Donald Trump. You must be scratching away trying to find something.
I really wish anybody were talking about him, except, of course, everybody's talking about him. Trump is exploding on social media, and a lot of people are using a lot of hashtags, including hashtag Donald Trump, which is being used thousands of times every single day. The same with another hashtag by supporters, Make America Great Again. But, of course, not everybody who's using these hashtags is necessarily a supporter of Trump. So we have people here like Michael Terry who says, what solutions has Trump offered the nation except I have a terrific plan for this or a terrific plan for that? He's into self-aggrandizement. Now, of course, for those of you at home, we want to know what you think, so be sure to tweet us using the hashtag you see at the bottom of the screen right now, AJStream.
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
So when Donald Trump made that announcement, many dismissed it as a stunt. The Washington Post editorial board called him an aimless, angry leader. The Huffington Post refused to include him in their political coverage, featuring him on their entertainment section instead. The Wall Street Journal questioned how long his supporters will keep pretending he's a serious candidate. Even Republican Party strategists didn't think he stood a chance. But Trump is everywhere, dominating the polls and constantly making national headlines. And while he's made the covers of big US magazines like The New Yorker, Time and The Rolling Stone, not all of the coverage has been positive. He's been heavily criticized for a number of controversial comments about women, immigrants, Mexico and the Black Lives Matter movement. Despite all of this, Donald Trump's Make America Great Again message continues to resonate, making him the leading Republican candidate for the presidential nomination. So what does his rising popularity say about the 2016 race for US president? To help us discuss this, we're joined by Hector Luis Alamo, a journalist who writes for blogs and online publications like Latino Rebels, Gozamos and Red Eye. Lisa Michero-Wisner is a former finalist on The Apprentice. That's a reality TV program Donald Trump hosted. Lisa is also the founder of a community organization called Power Up. And Charlotte Laws is a Trump supporter, columnist and author of Rebel in High Heels. And then right here in our studio, we have Stefan Richter, editor-in-chief of the daily online magazine, The Globalist. So great to have you all here, everybody. Welcome. Charlotte, when you heard the announcement, Donald Trump, 3 months ago now, he was going to run as a Republican candidate. First reaction, honest reaction, what was it?
Well, I thought it would be very exciting. I didn't know whether I was going to support him back at the very beginning, but as time has progressed, I have come out of the closet, because you pretty much have to be in the closet to be a Trump supporter, because you get ridiculed by everyone.
Yes.
And you are called racist, sexist, insane, stupid, every name in the book. So there are a lot of people who are underground who are supporting him but don't want to tell anybody. So as time progressed, I listened to what he had to say. I was impressed. And now I'm a full-fledged supporter. But I'm not a Republican. I'm actually an independent.
Right.
And I have now registered Republican so that I can support him.
Aha. Stefan, what do you think it is about Donald Trump's personality that is so appealing right now to some Republican voters?
And not just Republicans. I mean, the man produced a reality TV show. He starred in one. He made money of it.
Yeah.
He knows better than most politicians alive how to plumb the depth of the American soul. He also, in a good sense, does something that he connects to the people around the lower income half of the country, below median income, which have been left aside by the politicians. Few of them go to vote, and he has the ability to really get them connected with all his bravado and braggadocio and all the crap that he brings. But he has this kind of visceral American talk, including greatness about Ronald Reagan and all the easy solutions. He connects very well to men who are always for the easy solutions, 0 or 1, everything is a digital cause, a binary cause.
Have you met him? You seem to know an awful lot about him.
I have been thinking about him. I have been doing that the same way like most Americans all do. We perceive our people, our politicians, our leaders through television. I think that's basically a cleaner approach. I have seen all his Wagnerian hairdo, like young Siegfried from operas, how he looks and all of that. He is a very interesting product. And the one thing I like about him is that he totally upends the establishment, which is long needed because, there was always this narrow Washington consensus, whatever was considered kosher. And so he's breaking that open. And he has surprises for the Republicans, not least on the famous women's issue, considering the Megyn Kelly debates. He's a Republican who stands for women's abortion rights, thus breaking open a long taboo issue inside the Republican Party. So for all his negative sides, which I think Hector will address also, there are some things where he does good things, and we need to take him by his word where he says progressive things, Stefan, which once in a while happens.
Let's get the community in a little bit, and Stefan was mentioning the Megyn Kelly incident. Maybe we'll bring that up a little bit later. Megyn Kelly is a host on Fox TV News here in the United States. Omar.
Yep, so we have people who are also discussing the Trump factor. We have Faris over here who says some people like Trump because he has the spine that's been missing in the White House for the past 8 years. But Walad Daniel responds to him saying, spine is brilliant, but with a brain on top of it, preferably. Which brings up kind of an interesting point. Lisa, I want to throw this to you. Do you think it's fair to say that people have been focusing too much on Trump's personality and not really addressing what a lot of people say is a lack of substantive knowledge on the issues that are really at hand?
That's a great point. In fact, the way I see it is everyone's doing exactly what they don't like about him to him. They're taking everything he says and everything that comes out of his mouth as what essentially is what he's running for. And for me, I personally feel like because I have met him, I have worked for him, I have had an opportunity to play a full round of golf with him, spent a whole day on a golf course with him. So I feel like I have a better understanding of who he is as a person.
Lisa,
and the person that's showing up.
Can I show you something? Because I'm going to show you a little bit of mashup of his announcement. He's running as a Republican candidate. And then you can tell me what's authentic or where you think he's maybe just doing it for the cameras. Because it's really hard to work out what's Donald Trump and what's the entertainment part of it. So here we go. This goes back to June. And have a listen to this.
Will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. Free trade can be wonderful if you have smart people, but we have people that are stupid. I like China. I just sold an apartment for $15 million to somebody from China. They have bridges that make the George Washington Bridge look like small potatoes. I don't need anybody's money, it's nice. I'm really rich. I love the Saudis. Many are in this building. Obama, a year ago, Yemen was a great victory. 2 weeks later, the place was blown up. We're dying. We're dying. We need money. Thank you, darling.
All right, that was a little unfair because it was a mashup, so he doesn't sound quite that discombobulated. But the difference between the showman and the person that you know, Lisa, enlighten us.
Well, I think one of the main issues for me, at least, about Donald Trump is the fact that the person that I met when I was on the show is completely different from the person who I think the media portrays. And of course, nobody's putting words in his mouth. He says what he says, and he's unapologetic about it. But I think that's also what's so genuine about him. This is the America that we want, which is the America where a guy like Donald Trump can say the things he does and run for our office and then essentially have support from people. That's, to me, the definition of success in a democratic nation. But, of course, we all know all the things he has said that we don't agree with, and I don't agree with some of them. So I'm completely split in the terms that
give us one that he said and you just went, facepalm. This is a facepalm moment for me. I wish he hadn't said that because I like him.
Yeah, when he talks about immigration, I think he takes it to a personal level. He speaks about the people. He talks about the Mexican people. He talks about the Chinese. He takes it to a personal. This is about policy. It's about countries. It's not about the person down the street who's from Mexico. This is about the government of Mexico. and he takes it into a too personal level where it ends up just hurting. He's going to talk himself out of his presidency. We all know that he's built this billion-dollar company that and hopefully if he does win the presidency, he can take America and make it great again, as he says. But he's not going to do it if he's not diplomatic, if he's not professional, and he's not able to make people understand. You have to be able to communicate, and he's not communicating right now. He's explosive.
Hector?
I'm laughing because she said, this is such a great country where, a guy like Donald Trump can run and maybe win the presidency. And I'm thinking a guy who was born rich, is a billionaire, he has money to run for politics. He can say things about immigrants and basically immigrant workers and run.
My point, Hector, my point is that if Donald Trump can say the things he's saying and people still support him, I come from Kenya where this kind of talk is called hate talk. Essentially, he wouldn't even be in a position to be running for anything. I
don't agree with you at all. I really don't. I think that he doesn't talk in a precise manner. I agree with that. And I think he talks very quickly and he thinks very quickly, and sometimes he doesn't finish his sentence. But I haven't seen him make a racist comment or a sexist comment. And I've also met him. I don't know him very well, but I've met him 3 times, and he is the most likable person you would ever meet. And I guarantee anyone who meets him will like him. And he truly loves people. And he truly has great relationships with Democrats, Republicans, independents, people from other countries, leaders of other countries. He will be able to do great things for this country. And he's not racist. And his immigration policy is very similar. In fact, it's really the touchback policy, which is the same policy.
Well, Charlotte,
the New York Times endorsed, Obama
you can't say that somebody is not racist. You can't essentially know what a person is. So you could say that some of the things that he's being portrayed as has not made him look racist, but you have no idea. Yeah, you don't know that.
I don't know in person, but I haven't found anything in the records and the articles that say that he is, and I don't have any reason to believe he is based on any of the comments he's made.
So, when that accusation comes up, it's usually related to his rhetoric about immigration. We have Julio here who tweeted in, quoting Trump, saying, "Latinos love me," but then he attaches this poll result that shows that 70% of Latinos actually in the U.S. have a negative perception of him. Hector, when you hear Trump saying things like, "I'm going to win the Latino vote," do you think he actually believes that, or is that just rhetoric to deflect criticism about what he says when it comes to immigration?
Well, he says a lot of things and doesn't say how he's going to do it, or he doesn't even pretend to say that he has a plan for doing it. Like, I'm going to make America great again. We're going to have this and that once I'm elected president. But, does anybody know really what his policies are? It's kind of our fault in the media too. We just like the show. We invite him on our TV shows, just like Jimmy Fallon just did, and just ask these softball questions and to get a few laughs. But we don't hold him accountable to say what is he going to do and how is he going to do it. And his immigration plan, to bring up what the doctor said, like, he wants to repeal the 14th Amendment, like he wants to make it so that
he wants a court to look at it and to see if it actually allows for birthright. And you've got to understand there are only 30 countries out of 190 in the world that actually allow automatic birthright. So
yeah, but I thought the United States was exceptional. I thought Republicans thought that the United States was exceptional. And yet they want to change the very thing.
With all due respect to the stat there,
things that make us,
I think we also should not honor Donald Trump too much. What he says is par for the course and has been for many years of what Republicans do in any pre-election race to become the candidate. That's what put down the last guy 4 years ago. It's what they do. The good thing, and I use this in quotation marks, Hector, is that at least women are sort of off the hook this time, because in the past the Republicans would always talk about abortion, and there are some aspects how they're trying to get the women back in. So that Latinos are now on the hook is very unfair to Latinos, but it is, in quotes, positive for half the population that the Republicans don't have in their hooks. When he talks about non-specifics, again, let's not blame Trump for what pretty much every politician does. And I say this certainly not as somebody who respects the guy or admires him, but what I will point out is what I said earlier, that he understands the soul of Americans better than most politicians, and that of most Americans. And especially those that have not been voting in the past, and that makes his election or his race inside the Republican Party all the more unpredictable.
So what do you say to an international audience as to what does Donald Trump stand for? What are his basic policies, Stefan?
So he stands in a visceral manner for all the instincts that many Americans have. Americans are an unconnected nation. You know, we only have two neighbors, Canada and Mexico. The rest of the world is far away. Most Americans do not have lots of experience traveling abroad. It's below 15% or so. And whereas in most other countries they have a sense of neighbors and getting along with others, the American solution has always been, let's hit them, let's bomb them, let's do something to them, very undifferentiated. And that is not a Trump solution. That was George W. Bush, who was president.
But policy, see, you're being vague here now too. Charlotte, you would vote for Donald Trump if he ran as a candidate for being president, and he gets through this Republican candidacy round here. What does he stand for, in a nutshell, for international people watching around the world?
Well, he stands for America being strong and having good negotiations and having America not being taken advantage of by other nations. That's how people feel in this country, that we've been just giving away the store for too long, that we're losing traction in the world. And people feel that he is strong and he's going to be able to do something. And you have to remember that, you know, the media, I think, is being very unfair with him. If you go to the other candidates' websites, you're not going to find a bunch of policy detail. They haven't come out with all the specifics.
But we're not talking about necessarily the US media here. We're talking about why is he doing so well? And actually, if you look, for instance, have a look here. This is Conrad Hackett. He does a lot of media analysis here. Media being unfair. So CNN reports in the last 3 months, he has been on more than 2,000 times. Jeb Bush on 1,000 times, and Cruz is on 416 times. So he's getting a lot of media coverage. Let me go to some of his supporters, because we were at a rally this week and wanted to know what Trump supporters felt about him. Have a listen to this.
Well, I think he's the only guy with the courage and the guts to go out and tell the people in America what we really need to have done in Washington, cleaning up the place. He's got the right idea about immigration, or at least he's got a good start. I like what he said about the VA hospitals, close them down and send the guys to the private hospitals and doctors where they get better service.
I think Donald will make America great again, but if you want to know why I'm supporting him, we've got a breakdown of the rule of law in our country, and it's not good for any country. And I think that he represents to me a return of the rule of law.
See, Hector is laughing and Charlotte is nodding in agreement. Let's see what the community's doing.
Yeah, we actually put out a question on what people think is missing from the conversation when it comes to Trump and the Republican race. Sure. And we have Iksan here who says what's missing is logic and common sense, while Victoria says any form of intelligent debate. Charlotte, we're seeing this sort of thing come up pretty often. What is it that you, as a Trump supporter, see that you think a lot of people who are dismissing this as being non-substantive and non-intelligent are actually missing?
Well, I think they're missing the fact that this is truly a revolution against the two-party system. And that's what I think is a big part of this. And I think that Trump is really an independent. He's appealing to that 42% of independents, or people in this country who self-identify as independents. And he's really appealing also to Democrats and to the Republicans. And so there are a lot of people who are very fed up with the system. And the two parties have been hijacking the elections for a very long time, using fear, telling voters you must vote for one of the two parties, or otherwise your vote goes to a waste. And so people are very fed up with that, and they really want a say-so. He's not a bully. It's the establishment that's the bully. They're the Goliath. He's the David who's standing up and
with all due respect, I mean, he's using fear more than any other candidate. He's saying every other thing he says is China, Mexico, we're not great again. You're losing your job. The Wall Street's taking this from you. The government's taking that from you. It's all fear-mongering. It's all trying to gin up this fear vote, which,
this is touching the hearts of people, because they do believe all of this.
No, it's touching the hearts of only 30% of Republican voters. You cannot win a general election with only 30% of Republican voters.
But Hector, you must
not win with only...
I know Latinos. I know a lot of people who are supporting him secretly. There are a lot of people who are not Republicans who are... I know Latinos here.
70% disapproval among Latinos.
There are a lot of Latinos
I'm sure you do know Latinos.
Are legally
and I was just talking to.
are very upset about illegal immigration. There's
right,
a lot of them.
All right, so,
I know
Charlotte and Hector, let me just get you one at a time, because I love hearing you in stereo, but I can hear you better one at a time. Hector, finish your thought. Go ahead.
I mean, I hear from two. I mean, my own grandmother. She, talking about, Obama is soft. He's letting people across the border, even though there's net zero immigration for the past few years. Oh, Obama's letting other countries do this and that to us. Like, and then you ask these people, how is he letting countries push us around? And then they can't bring up one instance where a country's pushing us around. And then they're saying Donald Trump is saying that I'm going to bring back Make America Great Again, basically use hard power again. But when you see that when the United States goes around, with a heavy footprint all around the world, that just causes more problems, a la ISIS, anything like that.
All right, hold tight for a moment. Stefan, what do you want to add?
I want to amend my earlier answer to you and be precise.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to the rest of the world,
yes,
what Charlotte described as Donald Trump saying we want to be strong again. The rest of the world feels, as I think we just heard from Hector also, that America, by golly, is strong enough. So what more stronger and how much more can America have its own way? At the same time, Hector, you must have noticed, including in Trump's statements on immigration recently, when he used Latino baiting and basically defended that in a very devious manner by saying, well, if we don't stick it to the Latinos, our black urban young men and young people will never have a job again. So he's doing something that goes back in American history some 5, 6, 7, 8 decades, which is really dirty, but he flips it. Instead of basically going at African Americans, black Americans now, he goes at Latinos and says, hey, I'm clean because I'm doing it for the black part of our population. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on that is very, very conniving in what he does. And very
over 100 years old.
Illegal immigration is hurting the poor people in this country. And what's really upsetting to most of us who are upset about illegal immigration is the money that we expend. The fact that 71% of illegals here with children are on some kind of public assistance, that we are paying for their medical, we're paying for education for illegal children. That's $11,000 a year. We have
the same study
Los
you're
Angeles
citing.
County, 25% of the people in prison are illegals. That's
the same study you're citing.
Before we hurtle into an immigration debate and forget we're talking about Donald Trump, just hold tight for a moment. Have a look here on my laptop. This comes from the Washington Post from this week. They asked a very simple question in their poll. Is Donald Trump qualified to be president? The deep greens are no's and the pale greens are yeses. So we've got out of registered voters, most say no, 56%. Out of Democrats, no surprise here, almost 80% say no, he's not qualified. Out of Republicans, actually, more than 60% say yes, he is qualified to be president. And then out of independents, we've got, again, almost 60% say no, he's not qualified. So out of this Washington Post poll, most people are saying no, he's not qualified to be president. But that's just a poll, and the election 14 months away. Meanwhile, back in our online community, what do you have?
I can leave you with this thought from our online community, Philip here, who says Donald Trump is purely an entertainer. That's what draws them in, but I have no idea how his political journey will end.
Hector, in about a year's time, guess I'm wrapping up, guess, and we're taking you all to the post show because I know you've got a lot more to debate. Hector, in what kind of world would you vote for Donald Trump for president?
If he, I can't imagine that world, but let's just pretend. Yeah. If he had if he wasn't so bombastic, so vitriolic, and he had some kind of plan that was going to check Wall Street, he's pretty good on Wall Street. I gotta admit, but that doesn't mean that he's going to do it.
All right, let me just check in with Lisa. Let me see if Lisa, okay. would you vote for Donald Trump next year?
I think for me, he's too polarizing. I think right now he just needs to check himself in terms of his policies and understand that he's talking about policy, not people. And the Donald Trump that I met when I was on The Apprentice, that I got to hang out with, that's the Donald Trump that needs to show up in the debates. That's the Donald Trump that needs to show up tonight. We don't need to hear all the crazy talk that he seems to be spewing, and that's why the media is eating it up, because it's controversial. So for me, a world where he's more polished and more diplomatic and respect people's opinions.
That would be an interesting world. So thank you to Stefan, to Hector, to Lisa and Charlotte. We are not over yet. We're going to continue this conversation about Donald Trump in the post show, stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you online. Take care. All right, welcome back. This is the Stream's online post show. We've been talking about the reasons behind Donald Trump's popularity in the Republican race for US president. I cannot believe I said that sentence. Isn't it amazing? I mean, you've got to admit, Hector and Lisa and Charlotte and Stefan, this is really happening.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you make sense of that? I mean, that's the bit. I mean, that was the core of today's conversation. We can debate about a lot of issues, but how do you make sense of that?
Very simple.
Well, I mean,
I'll go to all of you because I want to get all of your individual takes, and they're all really, really interesting because I'm not sure I get it, and I live in America.
But you know the one thing, Americans want to be surprised. And he is a surprise, and in that sense, it is not too far-fetched, even though politically and in terms of warm willingness, totally different, that we had a young African-American senator some 9 years ago who stood up and said, I want to be president. It is not so much whether the guy is really qualified in the end. It's just that we want to have that titillation, to have something unexpected happen, because nothing sensible happens in our politics in general. So we're throwing it away, and we're ready to do this. And on Trump in general, one other point. The Trump that will show up after the Republican race, if he wins that race, is probably the one that Lisa points out, because they will
the real one.
They are very
Yeah.
different rules in the general election campaign. And as I said earlier, he can say, I'm the pro-abortion Republican. You know, I hire a lot of women executives and so on. So he can toss it up in interesting ways.
Yeah, I can
And
totally
you got
see
to
that.
remember that when you showed that statistics earlier about people that wanted to never vote for him and that he's not qualified. Well, Reagan was called not qualified in article after article when he was running for president. And you also have to remember the statistics have changed greatly over the last couple of months. A lot of people were never going to vote for him. And now people are saying, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I will.
True.
And I know Republicans who said they'd never vote for him. And now they're going, okay, I'm changing my mind.
See, polls are very useful and also useless. So, meanwhile, on the other hand, the other poll says they're useless. Omar, what do you have?
We have an interesting disagreement here happening online. We were asked about what Trump's weaknesses might be. We have Gene over here who says his biggest weakness is not recognizing his own weaknesses. On the other hand, we have this video comment from Abby. Let's listen to what she has to say.
One of the things that is so appealing about Trump is that he is not an everyday politician. He's not made a career out of being a politician. He's a businessman. He's had failures. He's recovered from his failures, and he's always admitted his failures. One of the things I personally love about him is that he doesn't use a teleprompter. That right there just shows that he owns everything that he does. He takes credit for what he does. He doesn't blame anybody else for his mistakes. He owns it.
So, Lisa, from knowing him personally, which of these two things is it? Is he so full of himself that he doesn't recognize his own mistakes, or is he so humble that he basically owns up to anything that he does wrong?
You know, honestly, to be honest, he obviously doesn't own up to the mistakes because he does make mistakes and we've seen them and we've heard them, but he doesn't own up to how they affect people. But honestly, exactly what the lady in the comment, I didn't catch her name, what she said, which is very clear, which is he's not a career politician. He's a businessman. He took his business to the next level. He has struggled. I think in some sense, the people who are supporting him very strongly, they see him possibly as a role model. I mean, I always like to say that if you see Donald Trump and you see his children, then you can see the kind of environment that he has created. He's created an environment where they can be successful. And everyone might say it's money. And of course, if you have money, you can have successful kids.
He was
that
born
is
in
not
that
the
environment.
truth. Because,
he was born in that
but to be honest with you, how many rich people do you know whose kids are able to run billion-dollar corporations? Not that many. And so for him to be able to have all his kids...
Rich, of course. Yeah, I mean,
you know, honestly, you can't talk about rich. Talking about the rich, that's all relative, okay? It's all relative. And so if you were born rich, then we would be talking about it in a different sense. We'd be talking about trillionaires then. My point here is it's got really nothing to do with the amount of money he has in his pocket. It's about his resilience. He's been able to take all the hate that you're even throwing at him right now, and he takes all the hate that everyone's been throwing at him, and he's still successful. I mean, are you kidding me? That is really what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody who can take...
He's used the law. He's admitted to using bankruptcy laws, using all kinds of tax laws to keep his money. I mean, the things that he says that he would he would fight against.
It's the laws.
Or the reason why
he's
maintained his
Hector,
billions.
it's the law of money. That's the law of money. It's a game, you know. You got to play the game, and so
you have to work in
essentially
the system, learn the system.
You got to work the system. Exactly. And so what you're saying is that because you don't understand the system, maybe, and I'm not saying you don't,
I did not say
essentially because he understands it very clearly. Obviously, he understands it very clearly.
But the point is not even
able to manipulate it.
The point is not even
that's why he's the person he is.
The point is not what Trump understands, Hector. The point is not what Trump understands, and many of the criticisms that you have of him, I share. The point is what kind of foil he is, and he's a perfect foil for many Americans at a time where, other than the top 3%, nobody feels particularly happy and is feeling like they tread in place, that he's the ultimate aspirational tool. Let me hook up to him, and he will be my elevator right up. This is the same thing as you have Republican voters, most of whom of not big riches, voting for Republicans because Mitt Romney and others are promising people tax cuts that only work for people who have $500,000, $5 million a year in income. Still, you will have a lot of people voting for Republicans. That is what Donald Trump, in a new variation, brings to the table. Invest in me, I will bring you up. It is a complete folly, but this is what American elections are all about. Who can most credibly sell a folly to the American people?
We were talking about the money aspect of it. Charlotte, I'm going to come to you with this in just 1 second. We were talking about the money part, and people are actually raising some interesting points here. We have Kotikza Online who says, thus far, Republican voters had to choose between several versions of more or less the same politically correct statements. Donald Trump is the first candidate with uncensored opinions that can actually afford the campaign even without central support. Charlotte, do you think that if more candidates on the Republican aisle could afford the campaign themselves without having to rely on donors, would they sound more like Trump?
I think it would help a great deal because the money in politics is fatal to our system. And what we really need is clean money elections. And in a funny way, Donald Trump is the clean money election. And that makes people feel good that he can't be bought, that he's not going to be giving favors back to people after he gets elected. And I also wanted to mention, just a little bit off topic, but I read an article from 1990 about Trump, and it was really interesting. It was in Vanity Fair, and it talked about how he had been invited to join a country club, and he refused because they would not allow blacks or Jews in that country club. And in that article, he talks about how he likes the common person. He doesn't like the snobs and the elites and the wealthy people. He relates to the common man and woman.
Charlotte, what year was that article?
It was 1990, and it was Vanity Fair.
Was that?
I just read it a few days ago.
Was that when he was a Democrat?
I don't know what he was because I think he's really an independent in his heart, but
sure.
I have no idea what he was at the time. I just read a very, very long article, and his wife at the time was very into the social status and the elite and being at the country clubs, and he didn't care about that. And he's the same guy then as he is today.
If that's true, then shame on him for speaking that way recently. If that's true, if he feels that way about people of color and minorities, then shame on him for speaking the way he's been doing for the past 2 months just to win the Republican primary.
So let me just interject a little bit, because I think part of what we were talking about is who would vote for Donald Trump? Why is he being successful? Who are his supporters? When we went to a rally, actually just last night, we also spoke to some people who didn't think he was a good person to be a candidate. Have a listen to their thoughts.
I don't think he's qualified. I don't think he's smart enough. I don't, he's probably the worst candidate out of a not great selection.
Donald Trump said some hurtful things about immigrants in general, say criminals, rapists, doing drugs and all that. But as you can see my sign, I'm an immigrant, but I'm not a criminal. But I want Trump to notice, not all of us are bad. All of us are here to actually do a good job to help probably the economy and all that, by having jobs, paying taxes and all that.
Because I can't stand anybody who's a sexist pair to women. There's no point. We're all equal here.
All right, so I want to do this quite swiftly. I already checked in with Stefan as to, could you even imagine that Donald Trump could be a Republican candidate? Not only that, but a really successful one. So I've got Stefan's thoughts. I want a closing thought from Hector, from Lisa, and also Charlotte, but very quickly as to your understanding as to why he's doing so well right now. Hector.
I mean, I agree with Stefan. He's pure id. America, especially when it's down, when it's low, when it feels like it's down, they like a jerk. They want somebody to push people around. But I mean, that's style over substance. That's not how you are, the president of a country, especially a powerful country like ours. And you can't just go around bullying people. And just to correct something that Charlotte said, I mean, studies have shown that immigration is a net positive on the economy, and they actually pay more into the social welfare net than they actually receive out. And if you actually passed comprehensive immigration reform, that benefit would increase.
All right,
so,
Hector's closing thought. Thank you very much, Hector Luis Alamo. And then we're going to get Lisa's closing thought. Why is Donald Trump doing so well right now? Because, Lisa?
Yeah, two things. First thing is he's talking about the hot topics. So he's talking about immigration. He's getting everybody excited. So with excitement, you have the people who love it and then the people who hate it. No matter what it is, you're just excited and you want to watch. And then the second thing is that he's unapologetic. In fact, he just speaks his mind, and I think people like that. They're liking the fact that he's not polished. And you may not like it, but essentially, he's speaking about things that maybe some politicians talk about behind closed doors.
Lisa Michelle-Wisner, thank you. Appreciate that. Charlotte.
You're welcome. Yeah.
One thing that I love about him is he said that he only sleeps about 3 hours a night. And that's what people like. He has serious energy and passion. And that's what you need to get things done. Jeb Bush is low energy. I mean, when Trump says that about him, people go, oh my God, that's completely correct. The other candidates seem stiff. They seem like they're being told what to do. They're reading the teleprompter. They're boring. Trump actually has that passion and that energy, and that gets the country inspired. And that's the main job of a president, is to be inspirational.
I love the way that you've all... I shouldn't laugh, really. Thank you, Charlotte, Lisa, Hector, and Stefan. It's been really interesting. You did a fantastic job of unpacking this incredible phenomenon of Donald Trump. I'm sure you'd be delighted that we've been talking about him for so long. What do you have, Omar?
So I'll leave you with a couple of closing thoughts here from community. We have Ronnie here, who is a supporter of Trump. Make America Great Again, and you can see here's Trump. It's actually a pretty funny picture of him saving the Statue of Liberty. On the other hand, you have Marianne, who says, here in the U.S., we are torn between haha, he's ridiculous, and being completely appalled. And finally, on a neutral point, you have Chris, who says, regardless of his policy, you have to give it to him. He's made it entertaining to watch the political shows.
All right, you're all so not fired. You're all so not losers. Thank you for being on the stream today. Take care, everybody.